Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm TWK and welcome to TWK Reviews, where I review whatever's on my mind. And while things may not be as bright as usual, that's due to the fact that my cell phone was apparently causing the noise in the previous video, so apologies for that, but no cell phone light means things are going to be a little bit darker, but we're going to move on because, as you can tell, looking at this channel and my previous one over the years, I've never really been about production value. I've just been more about trying to entertain all of you for the sake of just entertaining you guys. Just trying to be an entertaining person. And you know what helps with all of that? My Plus Ultra patrons over at patreon.com/TWK Reviews. Barbara Castaneda about reviews, and Ricky Relic. If you would like to join their ranks, head on over to patreon.com/TWK Reviews. Now today we're going to be looking at Saints Row the Third. Now if you'll excuse me. Saints Row the Third. Yes, we're taking a look at the original 360 release. I could have gotten the updated re-release on the PlayStation 4, but you know what? Decided not to because, quite honestly, this is not one of my favorite games of all time. I do not think it will be worth it for me personally to pick this one up. And that's basically what this video is going to be about. This isn't going to be the most objective review ever, but I think it's kind of necessary because I see this as a lot of people's favorite Saints Row games. And hopefully by the end of this video, you'll understand why it's not one of mine. Saints Row the Third kind of botches things from the word go. So we get a pretty nice robbery sequence that's high octane, pretty comedic, and it all ends with our anti-heroes captured by the police and handed over to the villains. So far so good, right? If only. We get a nice comedic exchange between the Saints and our would-be antagonist, Philippe Loren. This leads to a rather decent action sequence where we try to escape the plane we're being held on when this happens.
Johnny, we're about to jump!
Right on. I'll see you in still.
Johnny?
No, your senses do not deceive you. They killed Johnny Gat off screen. And after having some of the most heart-wrenching deaths in Saints Row 1, and especially 2, they go and they pull this. And what is worse is the tonal dissonance as we go straight back into wacky hijinks after the person who is supposedly both our right-hand man and our best friend is killed. But it doesn't end there, folks. Do you want to know what makes Johnny's death really weak? It's not the fact that it's some emotional high point or it's the catalyst for the plot, because truth be told, it kind of isn't. It's that we end up killing Loren just a few hours at the end of the first act, which means that Johnny Gat was killed off just to give us an excuse to kill a guy that would inevitably start the main plot. What makes it even worse than that is the fact that in previous entries, Volition had been so good about saving character deaths for when they serve the plot the most or give us the extra fuel to hate the antagonists. Not during any sort of introduction. So what about our actual villain? That would be Killbane. If you're a fan of wrestling as I am, then you're going to enjoy him being our rival, especially with all the wrestling references he constantly drops.
Time for the high spot, boys.
It's pretty clear that these developers are huge fans of pro wrestling, which kind of makes sense when you remember the fact that this game was originally published by THQ, the original publishers of WWE's games back on the PlayStation 1 and 2. How I miss those days of THQ innovation every year. Staying on the topic of pro wrestling, SR3 hosts a couple of pro wrestling voice actors. First off, in the minigame Professor Genki's Super Ethical Reality Climax, Rob Van Dam voices Bobby the color commentator, and you bet I did the whole thumb gimmick. This is easily my favorite minigame in the entirety of Saints Row the Third. You just run around murdering mascots and shooting targets for points while avoiding obstacles like fire and electricity, and you get some entertaining commentary to boot. Speaking of minigames, while most of them range from fine enough to being fun on a bun, they can also turn out to be Saints Row the Third's Achilles heel. Mainly because roughly 1/4 of the game's missions are just playing the mini-games. I can't properly put into words how odd that is, and this would continue into the 4th entry unfortunately, although it's not as egregious there as it is here. The worst part of all this is the fact that whenever we get missions that are actually missions, they're actually pretty good! Seriously, when we're actually going through unique areas, this game can be pretty fun. Do you want to know what isn't fun? Escort missions. Yeah, Saints Row the Third committed the unforgivable sin of forcing players through not just one, but multiple different escort missions. Thankfully, these did not return in the sequel. Do you want to know what else isn't fun? Casting a racist as a luchador. Getting back to the celebrity involvement, we have Angel de la Muerte, voiced by racist-ass Terry Boulder himself, Hulk Hogan. Now, I know they couldn't have possibly known that Hulk Hogan was a racist back in the day when this game came out back in 2010, 2011, but if they had to get a white guy to play a luchador, why not get Christopher Daniels? He was around TNA the same time Hogan was, and he is infinitely more wholesome than Hogan will ever be. Staying on the topic of good ideas, this game's soundtrack is the radness, featuring such artists as Mark Morrison, Drowning Pool, Amon Amarth, OTAP, Opeth, Sublime, Run DMC, Bush, Faith No More, and the Black Keys, among many others. And on top of that, Saints Row the Third gives you the ability to make your own mixtape. Just take whatever tracks are on the radio stations and essentially make your own. And in my opinion, every video game of this type should have that option. And that's really all I have to say about Saints Row the Third. It's an overall decent game brought down by some absolutely baffling decisions. While it isn't my favorite game in the series, I'm still glad it exists, as it serves as a decent bridge between 2 and 4, which I personally regard as the absolute best in the series. And that's the video, ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and outside the gender box. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. Yes, things are a work in progress here, but then again, that's always kind of been my MO. Everything is a work in progress. My life is a work in progress. These channels that I operate are a work in progress. The podcast that I operate is a work in progress. Everything I do within life is just a glorified work in progress, trying to be better each and every attempt that I make. And hopefully, this video was way better than the previous one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun watching me make a fool out of myself, especially my Class 1B patron, Casey Nicholas Moore, aka the Evil Reverend. Also be sure to check out my buddy Greg's book, New World by Greg Haynes, available right now on Amazon.com in both physical and digital formats. And next time, oh boy, considering the fact that these videos are probably going to come out around October-ish, I would assume, I think it'll be perfectly great to look at a horror game, but not a good one. Oh no. Oh no. We're going to be taking a look at some good old-fashioned filth, baby.